Okay, this is lesson 1.2, operations with matrices. The definition for a matrix and an entry are on the screen. If you need to pause to copy it down, go ahead. Okay, a matrix is a rectangular arrangement of numbers in the horizontal rows and vertical columns. If you copy down a definition and have no idea what it means, it's basically useless. So let's try to make sense of this definition. On this page, example of a matrix. Notice how we have numbers that are organized into horizontal rows and vertical columns, which is our definition. So it's just numbers arranged into horizontal rows and vertical columns. Also, an entry is each number in the matrix. So in this matrix, I have 4 entries. 5 is an entry. Okay? That's all that a matrix is. It's numbers organized in the rows and columns. An entry is a number in the matrix. So, what is a matrix? Well, a matrix takes information that could be displayed in the table like we have on this page, or it could be in a bar graph, a pie chart, anything at all, and it displays it in a way that maybe makes a little more sense than what the chart did. How you create a matrix is you take your headings and you can either put it vertically or horizontally, whichever you prefer, as long as your numbers match the way they match in the table. So because this is on the right in a column, I'm going to keep matinee and evening on the right in a column. That's an M. That's matinee. That's evening. Okay? And then across the top, I'm going to put adult, child, senior. Okay? Now, if I line up my information, my matinee had how many adults? 22. My evening had 51 adults. Okay? So I go over to my child. Matinee had 23 children, and the evening had 23 children. Seniors, there were 13 seniors at the matinee and 18 seniors at the evening. So now I've created a matrix with the table of information that I had. Now we're going to look at adding, subtracting, and multiplying matrices. When you're adding, subtracting, or multiplying matrices, the most important thing you have to remember is entry 1 has to be, in this case, added with only entry 1. Why is that? Well, let's say that I had another movie theater, and on this Saturday evening, at the matinee, I had 10 adults and 15 adults show up at the evening. I had 10 adults show up at the matinee and 15 adults show up at the evening show. I had 2 children show up to the matinee and 10 children show up to the evening. I had 6 seniors show up and 12 seniors show up to the evening. Okay, so if I was to take this information and create a matrix, it would look something like this. Now, I do want to say that one of the most important things that students forget when they're creating a matrix, they forget these brackets. If you do that, it is wrong. There are my headings, matinee and evening, adult, child, senior. Let's fill in the information. At theater B is in blue, I had 10 adults show up to the matinee. I had 15 show up to the evening. 2 children showed up at the matinee. 10 children showed up at the evening. 6 seniors showed up at the matinee. 12 seniors showed up at the evening. So let's say I wanted to add these matrices. I wanted to combine them. I want to know in both of my theaters how many people showed up. Well, if I would have added adults from theater A to children in theater B, I would not have an accurate depiction of how many adult tickets I sold between my 2 theaters. That is why it's very important to add entry 1 with entry 1. So if I add adults from theater A I have to add adults from theater B too. So this would give me a total of 32 adults that showed up at both theaters. Well, that holds true here. Now, you're saying, well, is this movie tickets in these matrices? I don't know. It could be any information. The important thing is entry 1 has to go with entry 1. So 5 plus 3 is 8. Negative 3, see, I took 5 plus 3, entry 1 plus entry 1, and got my total. Negative 3 plus 4, I have entry 2 plus entry 2. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. How'd you get 1? Well, negative 3, my pen stopped working. Okay, there it is again. So I had negative 3. My pen does not want to work on this area right here. Negative 3 plus, this 4 is positive because to the left we don't see a sign, plus 4 gives us 1. Remember, double signs, can't have double signs. 2 pluses make a positive. Negative 3 plus 4, the signs of the two numbers are different, so we subtract. 4 minus 3 is 1. Always keep sign a larger number. That's how we got our 1. Now, I will not be going over these basic adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing rules every single time. So you're going to just have to know them. All right, let's finish up our matrix. 2 plus negative 2. Plus minus makes a minus. 2 minus 2 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. So 5 plus 3 is 8. Negative 3 plus 4 is 1. 2 plus negative 2 is 0. 0 plus 5 is 5. That's my answer. Go ahead and do number 3. Pause the video, do number 3, and then start the video again and check your answer. Okay. Let's see if you got number 3 correct. 14 plus 13 is 27. Negative 1 plus 2 is positive 1. The two numbers have different signs. We subtract. 2 minus 1 is 1. Always keep signing a larger number. 2 is positive, so your answer is positive. 2 plus 10 is 12. 15 plus negative 9. That's 15 minus 9. That is 6. Negative 4 plus negative 10 is negative 14. 8 plus negative 8 is 0. Now, if you were to write this on your test, I would mark it wrong, or in your homework, I would mark it wrong, because it does not have the brackets. Your matrix must have the brackets. Okay, go ahead and do number 4 on your own. We're going to discuss how to do number 5. Number 5 is exactly the same except for this sign right here. There's a negative sign there. So what does that mean? Well, that means I'm going to go 8 minus 7. My 8 is positive. Then I have my minus sign. My 7 is positive. So it's 8 minus plus 7. Can't have my two signs. A negative and a positive make a negative. So this is actually 8 minus 7. 8 minus 7 is 1. Positive 1 because we keep the sign of the larger number, which is 8. Negative 3 minus 7 is negative 10. 4 minus negative 2 is 6. Minus minus make a positive, so this is really 4 plus 2. Negative 1 plus negative 5 is 4. Negative and a negative make a positive. Negative 1 plus 5 is 4. Okay, you can do 6 and 7 on your own. Oh boy. Here we go. Okay, now we're going to look at multiplication with matrices. If I had 3 parentheses 10, what would you do here? If you don't see a sign between two numbers, that means multiply. 3 times 10 is 30. It's the same thing with the matrix. This means 3 times 10, 3 times negative 6, 3 times 5, 3 times 0. So in my matrix, I'm going to have 30. A positive and a negative make a negative. negative 18, 15, 0. Okay? 2 and 3 you should be able to do on your own. Let's look at number 4. It's the same exact thing, except this time we're going to multiply with a fraction. So we have 1/3 times 6. Now, how do you multiply fractions? Hopefully you said straight across. Now, I like to multiply, when in math, I like to do things that are the same. The same with the same. If I have a fraction here, I want to convert this 6 to a fraction. How do I make any number a fraction? That's correct. Put a 1 underneath it. Now, as I said before, you multiply straight across. 1 times 6 equals 6. 3 times 1 equals 3. That's my answer, except if you put this on your homework or the test, I would mark it wrong. That is because it's not reduced. Is there a number that goes into both 6 and 3 evenly? The answer is yes, 3 does. 6 goes into 3 twice. 3 goes into 6 twice. And 3 goes into 3 once, so I get 2/1 or 2. So we know our first answer is going to be 2. 1/3 times 6 is 2. 1/3 times 9, let me get rid of this little thing right here. 1/3 times 9 is 3. 1/3 times negative 18 is negative 6. 1/3 times 3 is negative 1. Sorry, that was negative 3. 1/3 times negative 3 is negative 1. There's my answer. You should be able to do this. A common question I have is, how do I do this one? It's 1/8 times negative 8, 1/8 times negative 5, 1/8 times 16, 1/8 times 2. Be careful with your 1/8 times 2. I'll give you a little hint. Your answer is going to be a fraction. All right. Now, here I'm told that A equals this matrix right here. And I'm told that B equals this matrix right here. So, whenever I see A, I'm going to write this matrix. Right here I have an A. Negative 2 times A. That means negative 2 times this matrix. Over here I have 5 times B. That means 5 times this matrix. So when I go to do this problem right here, negative 2 times A, I rewrite my negative 2, but instead of writing an A, what am I going to write? That's correct. I'm going to write the matrix. Okay, so now, negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. And negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4. Put the brackets around my matrix. That's my answer. You can do B on your own. Instead of the B, what are you going to write? That's correct. This matrix right here. So it's going to be 5 times this matrix. The last thing I want to show you is, what is the value of negative A? Well, we know that A is this matrix right here. So when I go to solve this problem, instead of writing A, I'm going to write negative sign, then I'm going to write this matrix. Now, how do I solve this problem? Well, this problem was written by a lazy mathematician. Because what is behind that negative sign? That's correct. It's a 1. This is actually negative 1 times A. So I just have to go negative 1 times everything inside my matrix. Anytime you see a negative sign, there is a 1 behind that negative sign. So my answer is negative 1 times negative 3 is positive 3. This turns into a negative 4. This turns into a negative 2. This turns into a positive 2. What happened? Anytime I multiply negative 1 to a group of numbers, it changes the sign of those numbers. So all I did was I took this matrix right here, and I just changed the sign. Let's go back for a second to right here. Okay. Let's use that same rule right now. I have a negative sign in front of my matrix. This is just like negative 1 times this matrix. So some of you may have been taught this by your elementary math teachers. Change this sign to a positive and change all of your signs of all the numbers to the right of that negative sign. And then you would just go 4 plus 6. 3 plus negative 1, negative 12 plus positive 4, negative 10 plus negative 2, and that would be your answer. Okay, if you have any questions about this lesson, please feel free to come in and talk to me about it. Otherwise, if you need to, print off the homework, and have a nice day.